Afield. Every week, Kentucky Afield brings you features on hunting and fishing across the state.
What a nice fish.
It's an opportunity to hopefully get that bird in play.
Hey, we got another one over here.
There he is. Ooh, a nice one too. Boy, he's healthy.
What do we got? That was awesome. Got the first belt.
Barely made it out in the field.
Got one. Big smallmouth.
Very nice.
Double point. They're in there.
There they go.
Look at that joker.
Woo!
That's a good one there.
Look at that.
Whoa, this is a good one.
That's better than good, Chad.
Hello and welcome to Kentucky Afield. I'm your host, Chad Miles, and tonight you have tuned in for our annual question and answer show all about spring turkey hunting. We've had our lines open for questions both on Facebook and YouTube for quite some time, and we also have a way you can reach out to us via text. If you would like to text us your questions about turkey hunting, you can reach us at 502-330-8682. Joining us tonight, we have Zach Danks. Danks, you've been here for a long time, and you've been doing the turkey as a turkey program coordinator. You've been answering these questions for this show for quite a few years.
I have. I'm very lucky to.
Glad to have you back.
Thanks,
I'm
yeah.
guessing you've been out in the field doing some field work?
I have, a little bit, yeah.
Very good. Next up, we have Dirk Steenbergen, and you are a regional biologist located out of Bowling Green.
Yes, sir, I am.
How long have you been working with the Department of Fish and Wildlife and working with turkeys?
Well, I started with the department in 2009, and then I kind of got in with the turkey thing about 2020 when we started the turkey banding is where I really jumped in.
All right, fascinating job. We'll hear a little more about that later on. Answering all of our law enforcement questions, we have Sergeant Christon Cornett, and you're in the 6th District, located in Clark County.
Yes, sir, I am.
Very nice to have you. Thank you
Glad
so much.
to be here, yeah.
Hey, we have a whole list of questions already coming in. Have you guys already been out in the field and seeing quite a few birds?
Yeah, since our trapping's kind of slowed down and in mid-March, I've been out a little bit, a few mornings the last couple of weeks, and goblin's been hit or miss. Had a couple really good days and a couple of days where it's quiet, so pretty typical.
That's actually perfect. We don't want it to be full swing all going right now. We still got a little time before turkey season, so the fact that the turkeys are just starting to heat up is perfect, huh?
It is, yep, should be.
Well, let's get to some of our questions here. Our very first question that we have here is from a gentleman by the name of Craig. He wants to know, what is Kentucky doing with turkey conservation and making sure the turkey population continues to thrive each year? What are we doing with that?
Well, it's a team effort. It's folks like these gentlemen right here beside me. We have staff across the state. Wildlife Division has wildlife biologists and technicians. We have our game warden crew across the state. We have educators across the state as well. All of us working collectively on wildlife conservation in general, but especially turkeys. And it feeds right into the turkey program. We try to work with our staff and help landowners promote good habitat management when we can. We're doing a couple different research projects to help give us solid information on which to base decisions about regulations, because hunting is the main thing that we can control directly. So it's a really big mix of, making sure our hunting regulations are set, but the things that we can't control directly, we've got to work with landowners to try to make conditions as best we can for turkeys across the state.
If you look at the number of turkeys that we have here in the state of Kentucky, it's cyclical. And there are things that we can't control. Habitat's a good one that we can't control, but we're going to talk a little bit later on about activities that happen every 7, 10, 20-something years, mainly the cicada broods. That is a huge driver for good turkey populations in certain years, but we can't control that. We'd love to be able to put cicadas on the ground every year, wouldn't we?
That's right, yeah. What Chad's referring to is this late spring, early summer, we'll be having a 17-year periodical cicada emergence. The last time these bugs came up out of the ground was 2008. Last year we had some, in a portion of western Kentucky, we had some cicadas occur. Those were 13-year cicadas. So the cicadas have a very fascinating life cycle. They're prime numbers, 13, 17 years. it's just really, we don't understand all their biology, but we understand the impact that it has on turkeys, turkey predators, all the interactions that normally happen. It's proven to be a good thing for our turkey population in the past, and so we're pretty optimistic that it's going to be that way this time. It's food for adult turkeys, for young turkeys, and for all the predators that would otherwise try to get at turkeys. They've got handy snacks right in front of them. So it's a pretty cool phenomenon, but it highlights the fact that in those 16 years when you don't have these cicadas, what can we do to try to mimic those effects? Well, it's working with guys like Dirk here to make your property as good as it can be producing those bugs, because that's what fuels growth of young turkeys, and that's really our best bet for ensuring turkeys are around in good
And that
numbers.
goes right back to habitat. We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
Good turkey habitat. We'll learn a little more about good turkey habitat. But we're going to get to our next question. Hey, our first 3 questions here are going to receive a Fox Pro, and this is a looks like a glass. So, and it's got a striker with it. So thanks for submitting your question. Next question of one of these turkey calls is going to be, looks like we've got, the next one is, sorry about that, I scrolled the wrong way here. Let me go. How many eggs on average do turkey hens hatch in their lives? Well, that's a back to a year, then how long they typically live, and we'll calculate it out. We'll help you.
Yeah. Some quick math. On average, a hen will lay from 9 year to year, individual to individual. Usually, they lay a few more once they're an adult. Success, 30 to 40% of the hens are successful. So over her lifetime, I mean, if she lives 4 or 5 years, she's adult. So potentially a lot of eggs.
Literally go, if you kind of back off the percentages, it could be 4 or 5 or 6 poults all the way up to 40,
Yeah.
50.
Right, it is, yeah. A lot of factors. From an initial nest of, say, 10 or 12 eggs, I mean, if only 40% of those nests survive, 40 to 50% of the eggs in a nest are going to survive, brood, down, but yet it's amazing. Are resourceful and.
So, and I'm guessing it's making sure that you have a good area for a hen to lay eggs, and probably also works on the success rate of that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very important. I worked with quail early in my career, and it's very, very important. So try to work on is provide places for nesting. I don't know, Dirk, tips on nesting habitat for the
Oh yeah, that's probably what's lacking the most on private property throughout the state.
What is?
I don't want a mosaic your property or farm. So I mean, big trees are nice, hard mast, and then on the other end, mowed pastures can have their own thing. Early habitat for the poults.
So you're talking about the area that you leave between your forest and that area of tall grass.
Having buffers and feathering to add that really.
Yeah. Question here comes from Daryl. He wants to know what the daily limit for turkeys are. It's been the same for quite some time. Tell us a little bit about turkey you're allowed to take and what the daily limit.
You're allowed to take 2 season. Daily limit for turkeys is 1, so you can only kill 1 bird per day. And also you have a visible beard. That's the requirements for it.
It becomes really important to make sure that if you're lucky enough to be in a place where 5, 6, 7 turkeys come out there, make sure that you get an opportunity where when you take that shot, it's because we're shooting shots you get out there, they can have a
Yes,
pretty
absolutely.
good pattern. So
Yeah, so sometimes pellet, that's it does happen where you'll kill 2 birds at one shot, but it's the hunter's responsibility to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
We do understand that sometimes that things happen. What I would encourage people to do if something happens is just write off the game warden, your local game warden. That way you can talk, investigate, see what it is, and kind of go from there.
all right. Next question here is from Zach. I'm not sure if you staged this question, but what's being done to keep lands for turkey habitat?
Quite a bit. Thanks to the work that our staff does, plus some additional funding that we've been lucky enough to receive from National years. It gives guys like Dirk a chance to do some focused projects. Dirk, you want to talk about some of the super fun, NWTF super fun we've got?
Oh yeah, they've done a lot as far as giving us equipment and chemical to some of that early successional habitat that turkeys love for brooding and foraging. One example is we got a masticator last year, and on barren we were able to fire lines, which is great benefit to turkeys, and then we cleared out probably 20 or 30 usable land.
And there's several doing that to kind of chew up some overgrown areas and start it. So the plant community can be ideal for turkey poults and nesting hens.
And you guys doing some burning as well?
I'm going to be doing some burning tomorrow on a yellowbank WMA.
Okay.
So burning is one of the best tools that we have for knocking it back and then opening up the garden, which the forbs increase our bug load and baby turkeys want.
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, next question from Jonah. He wants to know what a turkey's #1 predator is. Outside of humans.
Yeah. For male turkeys, it's humans for sure. But otherwise, it's definitely bobcats, coyotes, and great horned owls. Great horned owls take a good number of the adult birds that are taken.
Really?
Yeah. And that's, should be something we just, we have to acknowledge and appreciate. Nature's fascinating. We can't to manage those. But for those predators that, keep our turkeys on their toes, they wouldn't be as fun to hunt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
As far as a nesting hen, she's susceptible to the same predators. Eggs are, of course, susceptible. Raccoons, striped skunks, possums, but also things like rat snakes and crows too. So,
okay.
That's, those nesting really are most susceptible to predators.
And the poults, they grow. I mean, if you've ever seen one, they're not that terribly big. So the bird that comes out of it is pretty small. What do they have to worry about as far as the first month or two of life?
Yeah, well, they really can't fly till they're, maybe 10, 14. Even then, they're just kind of flying.
Yeah.
Hen tries to get them as quickly as possible. As soon as they can start flying, that provides survival a lot. And then once they're able to get up in the tree, survival goes up. Of course, there's still everything trying to get them at that.
Yeah.
But it's that week, 10 days of life is by far the most, the hawks, owls, everything.
So everybody knows that, most people know if you ever hunted turkeys, that they fly up into a tree and roost at some point in time in the evening, and then they fly down at night. Turkey poults, they can't fly. So where are they stuck that first? And does mom stay down on the ground with them?
She does, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's nesting on the ground from, when she's incubating pretty much all the time,
so
sleeping on the ground. Then she has her pole until be on a low limb or something, and brooding those little poults under her wings. But she's not out of the until
up there with her. That's why she's most vulnerable. The reason being, there's a bird that spends 48 roosting up in the tree, and all of a sudden it takes a month period that ground at night with other predators and trying to protect her eggs and then her young.
Yeah, absolutely. And
dangerous time for a turkey.
we talk about natural predators, but again, people don't just in illegal hunting, but we bush hog and mow up a lot of nesting hens and nesting cover too. So it's
you want to know what the number one predator is at an egg stage? It's probably a lawnmower.
It's a big one. Research takes a big chunk of numbers out, so that's one thing. Right, to up your local turkey population's chances are just to stay off the mower if you can at all. Until
after the birds are going to get into the trees, really.
Yeah.
I mean, to be cover for a nesting site. Once the eggs start being laid, because you're going to destroy the eggs, but until the poults can get up. So staying off that lawnmower later in the year can ruin turkeys.
Oh yeah. Or that's cutting hay has to do that. You know, farming operation. Then you need to stay off the mower.
Yeah. Just
stay off it. You got the latter part of early fall to mow bush hog. That's just one easy thing we can do to rather.
Yeah. You can help the turkey at all.
Kind of lazy.
All right, next question here. This is a great question because we somehow bypassed this question, and that is when. Well, and we have two seasons in the general.
The season comes in. It's April 5th and 6th. It's that one weekend only. Of course, the youth can still hunt the general season as well. General season is April 12th through May 4th.
All right, and it's April 12th to May 4th, right?
Correct, yes, sir, yep.
And tell me a little bit about who qualifies for a youth.
Yeah, a youth hunter is, for a youth license, it's between 12 and 15, but a youth hunter is 16 years old.
Okay, so anyone under 16 years of age. All right, next question. What counties were turkey years? What do they look like? So what counties were the turkeys banned in the last few years, and how's that looking?
Counties. Too many for me to with my limited moment. We've got, we've had tremendous efforts again by our staff that have tried to do getting something that regulations. Well, a good job. I mean, well over half of the counties, and between.
You can give some counties, and you're saying almost half of the counties that we've been in, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's just trying to get a snapshot of conditions all across the state. Private lands, public lands, east, west, central.
And how many years have you guys been working on this program now, this turkey banding program?
4 solid years. A few years kind of before that, pilot study type years. But
any learning so far?
Oh yeah. We're so far it looks like, and the results haven't been published, and they will be in our scientific journals. We're working with Tennessee Tech University, so shout out to Dr. Bradley Cohen. He's the professor, principal investigator of the research. Works with me and Tennessee's turkey program coordinator, and then we've got a master's student. She's getting her degree. She's already gotten a professional job. She's crunched the numbers. The analysis is basically showing that our harvest rates don't appear to be excessive. They're pretty much in line with kind of what we had expected. The rule of thumb is 30% if you can keep your harvest rate. The proportion of gobblers in your population, you really don't want to take out more than about 30% of those.
Okay.
So this is really important information because we hadn't had any kind of estimates from this for over 20 years from work done in Western Kentucky by George Wright, turkey program coordinator decades ago. So it's really important information, and the data is just continuing to flow in. So.
Next question, Christopher wants to know, or actually Ryan, a question from Ryan wants to know, are the turkey populations on the rise, the decline, and why? Yeah,
well, partly depends on 2017, 18, and we know that from harvest is one source of information, but we also do brood counts, brood surveys, and observations from the public and our staff. And folks are seeing more turkeys the last few years, and so we think that bodes well. We had a really good hatch last summer. It was like almost 30% better than 2023, so that bodes well. Hunters are going to see quite a few jakes this year. We also know that from our banding. These guys banded a lot of jakes this winter. So, you know, again, it's a great chance for a first-time hunter or youth to get their jake, or anybody. But next spring season, for the next couple of years, we're going to have quite a few gobblers.
So for people who don't know, when you talk about a jake, we're talking about a juvenile male bird, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So if you're out in the field and you see a bird come up and it looks like it's got a beard that's not very long, if they go into a strutting motion, how can you determine if it's a jake or a mature bird?
In strut, they need to look at the tail fan. So it's the central tail feathers. 2 to 4 to 6 are going to be longer than the outer ones, so the contour is going to break. Whereas on an adult bird, it's going to be even contour. All the
completely big and round on a mature bird,
evenly.
and kind of a jaggedy up and down like that on a jake bird. How long are they jakes?
A year. It's technically a year.
So by year 2, it's full.
By
full
that second fall, they'll be looking like an adult. Okay. So there's some other characteristics too. If anybody that gets a jake, shoots a jake this spring, look at its wing feathers. Its 9th and 10th feathers. The feathers closest to you are going to be sharp and pointy, and the tip's going to have a lot of black on it. An adult bird that wears his feathers down, it's going to be squared off, and the white barring is going to go all the way to the tip. So that's another way they can look at it. Okay. They're interesting animals, aren't they? Watching turkeys when they get out and they get into full strut and try to show their dominance. I'll tell you what, if you like to be outdoors, hunting or whatever, just watching a group of turkeys come out and watch those male birds strut around, it's something to see, isn't it? And listening to them, the vocalizations and... Oh yeah, you can be around several gobblers when they're fighting and posturing, and you're hearing all the purring, and it's pretty special.
It's a sight to be seen, that's for sure. Next question's from Christopher. How many turkeys can a youth harvest during the youth season?
Sure, yeah, they can harvest 2 turkeys during youth season. Of course, it's a 2-day season, so maybe 1 per day.
1 per day,
on those. Now, one thing to note on that is if they're between 12 and 15 and they purchase their youth license or youth sportsman's license, that there's only 1 bird on those turkey permits. So because they need those turkey permits as well. Okay. So they need to buy an additional permit for the second bird.
Okay, so if you're lucky enough to get one day one and you're on a youth license, you'll need to buy an additional tag for day 2, right?
Yes, sir. Yep, correct.
All right. Next question is from Dylan. With being a first-year turkey hunter, what is the biggest mistake a hunter can make when a turkey comes into your setup, and also any tips that would help me become a better hunter? What do you think is the number 1 mistake made by new hunters when it comes to turkey hunting?
Well,
start thinking about your answer here too.
if the birds have already come in, then probably I would say being impatient and shooting too quick. Yeah. It's easy to misjudge distance, and that bird can be farther than you think. I've talked to several veteran hunters, and I know it from myself. You pull the trigger and it's farther than you thought. Whether you kill the bird or not, you step off where the bird was, and it's like, man, I thought it was closer than that. So just being patient too, and waiting for that right moment, because you've got to be still. And your heart's going to be beating out of your chest, or else you're not really alive. So just try to be patient and calm down.
What would you say?
I would say either overcalling or movement.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited this year. I'm taking my son for the first time on this youth season.
Okay.
But I know exactly how it's going to go, and if we're not successful, it's going to be because I say, there's a turkey coming, and he goes, where? And that's going to be the end of our hunt. So movement is definitely one of the big ones.
You know what's interesting to me, and I'm no expert turkey hunter. I've been turkey hunting for, 10, 15 years. It's amazing to me when you're calling a turkey how well they can locate approximately where you're at. And if they're at a certain distance, calling when they get close doesn't help them figure out where they need to go. They know pretty much where that turkey call came from. So if you try to make some calls, regardless of what type of call you're making, unless it's a diaphragm call and you go to make that movement to get them in a little bit closer, you stand a chance on being spotted.
It's fun to call to him, but if he responds to you and he's out of sight, he knows where you are.
Yeah.
You might try to hasten it, but he's probably on his own time.
Yeah.
And he'll eventually come back to you.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Hen may take him off, but he knows he's not forgotten where you are.
Yeah. You talked about patience and you talked about movement. We've mentioned this to all new turkey hunters, and that is, if you've done a little scouting, the birds are there, and you kind of have a basic idea what their patterns are like. They change. You can get out there and think that turkey has been right here. I've seen him 3 mornings in a row. He's 9 o'clock. He's right here. I'm going to set my clock, get in there early, and he's going to be there at 9 o'clock. Well, that ain't how it works. They quite often don't get frustrated if you know the birds are there. If you start trying to walk and find a bird, running and gunning, if you hear one, you know where they're at, that's one thing, closing a little bit of distance. But just trying to blindly walk through the woods and call is a rough way to go about it, isn't it?
It's pretty tough. Yeah, I mean, for a bird that's got the brain the size of a walnut, they just have an uncanny ability to outsmart you. Even when you are like you're running and gunning and you locate one, my goodness, it's just very difficult.
Now what? Try to sit down and try to bring them to you. It's hard.
So important.
Yeah.
You got to get lucky, and
so I'd say for a new hunter, my experience has been for a new hunter, don't be frustrated if that bird doesn't show up in that first hour and a half, because I've killed way more turkeys between 10 and 1 in the afternoon than I have that initial fly down period. So you're talking about patience and not moving a whole lot. And now, once you kind of figure out, okay, I've been out here, I've hunted 3 or 4 days, foliage is coming out, you can hide yourself a little better later in the turkey season, and you've seen the pattern, and you kind of, maybe that's a little different, you hear one gobbling, but just get in the woods and try to move from spot to spot to spot every 30 minutes can be a very tough way to kill a turkey. I would advise to not move around a whole lot.
Yeah, it's hard to sit there, but sometimes it can pay off.
Next question. Let's see here. Next question here is, does the age of a male turkey determine how many beards he has? That's a good question. Talk about turkeys that have multiple beards and what drives that.
It's just a genetic anomaly.
Yeah.
Can't predict it, don't know why. Some birds just have it and some don't. It's like a, jumping ability, or, I didn't make the NBA. Just didn't draw that card. Some turkeys have multiple beards. It's really special and cool, but it's relatively rare and nobody really knows why. Has no known linkages to any other behaviors or anything. I've heard kind of some old wives' tales about either being gobblers that have multiple beards being sterile or extra fertile or something, or I've heard about it with hens, like are bearded hens sterile or not able to. No, none of that is true. We don't know where it comes from, but just an interesting phenomenon.
So a turkey that has multiple beards, if the turkey is 2 years old and it's got 3 beards, if it's 3 years old, is it going to have 4 or 5 beards? And if it's 6 years old, is it going to have continued being more beards?
I've never seen anything that's documented that's really been looked at, but my guess is maybe there's some difference like between its first 2, maybe 3 years, but it's probably kind of set once it's an adult. I don't know that. Maybe some people that have had, domestic turkeys and really studied them could speak to that. I don't know.
So turkey beards are not like rings on a tree. It has nothing to do with age. Really.
No, not to our knowledge.
All right. Next question's from Dave. He wants to know what shotguns and shot sizes are legal for turkey hunting and which are best. Well, Dave has opened a can of worms. Talk about legalities of shotguns and shot size.
Yeah, so the shotgun sizes, you can use anything from a 410 ranging up to 10 gauge. So that's your shotgun sizes. For shot sizes, can be nothing larger than a number 4 shot.
Okay.
So in those shotguns, they've got to be plugged to where you can only hold 3 shells, so 2 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. Mm-hmm. That's an important thing that we look for in the field. Mm-hmm. As far as for turkey hunting, my favorite shotgun is a 20 gauge, but a lot of people like a 12.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What's your favorite shotgun?
I've been using the same 12 gauge that I started out on, so I would have to stick with the 12 gauge.
Yeah, yeah,
Just by tradition, if nothing else.
yeah, yeah. What do you think? What's your favorite shotgun or gauge size to shoot?
It's still a 12.
Yeah.
I like as many pellets as I can throw at them.
Are you guys all using lead, or are you using tungsten, or what are you shooting?
I've used the third degrees the last few years, several years now, and I really like those. Kind of my go-to.
I bought a pile of shells 20 years ago, and ideally in a turkey season, I use 3 a year. One to sight in my gun, and 2 for turkeys, and then I'm done. So.
Well, that's funny because I came across the sale too. I was like, oh man, these are the best price I've seen. I'll buy 5 boxes. Well, I didn't calculate out how few times I shoot a year. I probably got a lifetime of 12 gauge shotgun shells. In the last 3 years, I've shot a 20 gauge. So, yeah, I know how that deal works. But you know what? It really depends on what you're comfortable with. I mean, if you are, I wouldn't want to put a small frame person or a kid behind a 3.5-inch Magnum 12 gauge shotgun. It doesn't take that. Right?
It doesn't.
If you have a gun patterned well and you let them get in range, there's a lot of turkeys taken every year with a 410.
Oh yeah, modern 410s, certainly 20s. Gosh, they're very capable with the loads they have out now. I mean, it's more than capable. My wife last year tried using my 12 gauge for her first opportunity on a bird, and it didn't work out so well. Once I got her a youth 20 gauge 870, bird was dead in the door now. Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you that whatever gun you're comfortable with, I've bounced around for both. The last couple of years, I've went to a 20 gauge just mainly because it's lighter, less weight to carry it around, and I've been shooting it over and under that I rabbit hunt with. Found a choke tube for it, shoots great. That's what I've used, but I still love hunting with a 12 gauge. But you know, if you got a young kid and they're going to be packing that gun around a long time, and you hand them a big heavy 30-inch barrel 12 gauge shotgun and a whole pile of ammo, and they may not want to pack that around all day, so go with a smaller gun.
Yeah. It's
amazing to me how many of the single shots, how popular the single shot turkey guns have become. They're relatively inexpensive. You can get one that comes with a tungsten choke tube, and some of them even have red dots on the top. Man, you're in the game for $300, $350, and it's a great turkey gun. So you don't have to break the bank to have a very efficient turkey gun, do you?
No, definitely not.
You talked about 870. That gun's been around for I don't know how many years.
I know. Yep, pretty classic.
Pretty classic gun. Next question is from Keith. How do we draw turkeys to our properties? Best source to attract them legally. Let's talk about how do you attract turkeys. The best way to attract turkeys with normal practices, and then let's talk about what we need to be aware of.
Well, a lot of times you can kind of look at each property is different, right? So some properties may be all overgrown woods, right? And having that diversity that we talked about with the habitat can draw turkeys off of neighboring farms if they lack that. And then in the spring, you can always do supplemental plantings like wheat. I've seen a lot of turkeys strutting in wheat here in the last week or so.
Yeah, it's starting to pop up. Those fields are starting to get
they're loving it, absolutely loving it.
So wheat and just having some diversity, kind of look at what your neighbor's got and offer them something different.
Yeah, offer something different. That's in general, anytime you can offer them something that attracts them that they can't get over here, that's going to draw them into your area. But I mean, every property is different, so it's kind of a case by case.
Yeah. Sergeant Cornett, tell us what we don't want to offer them.
Sure, yeah. So, we've outlawed baiting in Kentucky for turkeys. So we've got a feeding ban that starts March 1st, goes through July 31st. So you cannot place any type of corn or grain or anything like that out there that's designed to attract wildlife. So, your deer feeders, you can't put corn in those. Food plots are legal, like he's talking about, planting the wheat. Those are great ways to do it legally. It's what I would recommend, those food plots, wheat plots, stuff like that. But you just can't add to it, anything that's not a bona fide agricultural practice. So, whatever, like UK suggests that you would do. So, for example, planting wheat, if the planting rates, you got to follow those guides on that. You can't overseed and stuff like that to try to attract the turkeys.
Gotcha. Because I'd say if you've ever hunted next to someone that you either know is baiting or is accidentally baiting, it brings turkeys, and it's really, you're doing not only the birds It's illegal for a reason, but you're doing your neighbors a disservice as well, because you're now over attracting birds, and the bait doesn't necessarily need to be on the property you're hunting. If those birds are being manipulated by the bait, you're not allowed to hunt there, right?
Correct. Yep.
So you can actually get your neighbor in trouble by baiting. So you got to be very cautious there.
Yeah, you can't hunt with the aid of bait at all. So
yeah.
And if there is any bait, if you go out there and your corn feeder's still throwing out corn and you didn't realize it, you can't hunt that area unless the bait's been completely removed for 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
All right, next question from Brian. How does Kentucky turkey hunting stack up to other surrounding states? So you were talking about you guys are in a study with Tennessee, and I know you program coordinators for turkey. You communicate with all the turkey program coordinators around us.
We do, yeah.
How are we doing, and how are we stacking up to our surrounding states?
Yeah, I think we're holding our own. When I get asked, why aren't we changing the regulations or, to try to help the turkeys? Well, we know from experience looking at other states, especially in the Southeast, that have made changes, sometimes many changes over the course of the last couple of decades. It's pretty rare that they can actually document this has helped the population a lot. Our philosophy has been to stay consistent. We've managed to be completely consistent with spring since 2006. And really that was just a minor change. So going back to 2000 and before that, our timing's basically the same. Our bag limit's been 2 for many, many years. So sometimes regulations need to be changed. Other times, if it's unclear it's going to have a benefit, and we don't. All that said, I think we're holding our own. If you want to go down south to Florida and hunt the Osceola birds, you want to go out west and hunt Rio Grandes or Merriam's, hey, that's excellent. But as far as Easterns goes, Kentucky's kind of a sleeper state. I mean, maybe we don't get talked about as much as some states, but we've got just as much turkey hunting opportunity, and the pros know about us. All your major turkey hunting pro staffers for various companies, they hunt Kentucky. Yeah. So I think we stack up pretty well. Yeah. So the surrounding states, are their bag limits, what's Tennessee's bag limit? It's 2 now, just like ours. 2. They come in basically the same time as us and have the same bag limit. Their season goes a little longer. The other states, a little bit different. Missouri's pretty similar. West Virginia's pretty similar. Ohio's, I believe, gone to 1. Indiana's been 1 bird for its entire history, so it varies a little bit. But Kentucky is a lot like the upper, we're the upper South, which makes us quite a bit like the Midwest as well. So again, we have people from the South coming to hunt here, and I think a lot of people can attest to the rise in that non-resident hunters. It's because we have a desirable turkey population. All right, next question. What is a good turkey call for beginners? We get this question about every year on the show, and I get it a lot off the show. What would you recommend if a person wanted to try to get one call for a beginner that would give them an opportunity to call a bird in? I would say a pot call, a slate in particular. This one I'm sure is great. A slate's easy. You can make a turkey sound. That's what I used for first few years, but I don't know. I think that's easy. The push button calls, you really don't have to sound great, especially if you can do some homework and get amongst the birds, know kind of roughly where they are. You don't have to sound like a champion turkey caller to pull some birds in. So. It's amazing. You go out and you talk to some of these world champion turkey callers, and they'll tell you that the way that they call birds in competition is not the way they call birds when they turkey hunt. You don't have to. I mean, it's amazing. I have had turkeys that I was like that. I don't know who's hunting over there. I don't know who else got permission, but that's the worst caller I've ever heard in my entire life. And then a bird steps out, and it's actually a bird making that god-awful sound. You don't have to be a great caller. Just don't overcall. Yep. Be still. And do your scouting in the front side, and you can kill a turkey, can't you? Yeah, you can. Yeah, just don't get intimidated by it. I mean, thankfully, it's not life or death. You can mess up, and you can get a call this year, call or 2, and next year you can get it and practice. We're all busy. Yeah. We don't have time to practice a ton, but it is fun once you start getting into it a little bit and experimenting. But You know, just a basic call from, you know, you could get the cheaper call will work.
Let's talk a little bit about the different forms of calls. You talked about a push button call, and it's literally kind of a box, and you just got a button and you push on it. This, you got a bunch of different names. You call this a pot call or a glass call or a slate call. They got different materials that you can use with a striker. Talk about some other calls.
Yeah, box call. I mean, I had one of those and squawked on that thing. Probably made Mama sick, you know, when I first got into the turkey hunting. But that's a great one that can really, you know, reach out there and.
These are very loud. You can create some volume with these.
Right. I find it harder to control the volume with them, but it's good sometimes. You know, that's what you need to cut through, and you know, I might have favorites, but once you do start accumulating calls, you know, then you can kind of play around where, you know, maybe the slate's not working, but you've got a glass, and for whatever reason, you know, I can't pick out the distinction in the sounds, but the bird gobbled at maybe he gobbled at the slate or the ceramic and not the glass or vice versa. So having some calls can help you play around. It's fun. And
you know, changing the striker totally can change. Like I have a couple different strikers and I can mix those up, and it changes the pitch and it changes the volume a little bit. So changing the striker. Plus, on a call like this form of call where you got the glass or the aluminum or the whatever the surface is made of, some of those surfaces, you need to have a way to rough that up. They don't sound great right out of the package. So if you get one, any of these calls, you either need to get a little piece of almost like a roughing piece of sandpaper, or some of them use a piece of pumice.
Yeah, a lot of them come with a little scratch pad.
And once you start calling it, if you don't like, you start working with it, you don't like the way it sounds, scratch it up a little bit, and, you know, rough it up, and it will usually sound better. So that's something that you just want to make sure that you take that little scratch pad out there. If they get wet, or if you kind of work in the same spot and it starts not sounding as good, just rough it up and it ought to be right back at it.
Yep.
Talk about the other type of call that's probably the most common is called a what?
The mouth calls? Yeah. I really like a diaphragm call because just the concealment, and I can be loud, I can be softer. But I've always wanted to have that ability to make a sound right at the last moment maybe and not move too much.
Yeah.
So I like the diaphragm mouth calls myself. I'm not great at it, but I can yelp and putt and cluck enough to.
And this is what you're talking about, a diaphragm call. Now this is a little piece that actually goes in your mouth. It takes a lot more practice. You pop this thing in your mouth, and you pull an air through it, and you can make. It's amazing. People get really good with one of these. What type of sounds they can make.
Oh yeah.
Purr, a putt. I mean, people can gobble with these things. You can make a gobbling sound. So this is the best thing about this is that it doesn't take any movement to make that sound. If you got a bird really close, if you get proficient enough with one of these, you can be down on it, ready to go, and you're making that call with no movement whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I'd say most years in March, you don't want to be in my truck because I'm driving up and down the road. It's a great time to practice one of these. Turn the radio down, turn it off, pop one of those in, and you do that as well?
Yeah, I like to surprise my daughters or my wife just kind of out of the blue. I'll slip it in when they're not paying attention, and I'll just squawk at them, you know, wake them up. But
that's a whole host of calls, and I'm sure there are others out there that we're not mentioning. What type of calls do you like to use?
I prefer the slate calls over all of them, although my son will be using box call.
Okay.
The diaphragms, I have a problem where I have it in my mouth too long and I've stopped not liking it, and I've had some instances where a turkey came in and I can't move, and the main thing I want to do is get that thing out of my mouth. So, but I definitely prefer the slate. There's so many different things you can do with them, and then you can do it down low if you're in a blind. You can keep it low where everything's going.
I know that when I usually have a bird coming in and is trying to close the distance, I quit calling completely. But when I put my slate call down, I usually put it there with the striker right there next to it. And if I'm in a situation where that bird is not committing and it moves where I can't see it, it's behind a tree or whatever, it's just right beside you, a couple little calls, and then back up and ready to see if they won't commit that last little bit. But so I use a ton of pot style calls as well. I tend to like those the most as well. What about you? What type of calls do you like the most?
I'd say the same thing as what Dirk said pretty much. I like my slate calls, and I like to be able to do it down here, keeping those hands low.
Yeah.
But I also like the box calls, especially if I'm taking a youth hunting or something like that. The box calls are really easy for kids to do. Those are those little push calls.
Yeah.
They're really easy for the kids to do. They enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, what's the best type of call? That it all depends on your experience level and how you like to hunt.
Definitely.
So next question, how do turkeys gobble? This is Cody, a 5-year-old boy, wants to know how do turkeys do that? How do they make that noise?
Well, it's an instinctive noise. They don't really think about it. They grow up hearing other birds do it, and they have the innate ability to do it, and so it's just a big forceful push of air up out of their throat. They make other sounds too that go along with the gobbling. I didn't know that for a few years after, I've been turkey hunting, but the gobbling is what you're listening for. But when they get in close, it's really fun to hear the spitting and drumming sound. That's a really interesting kind of mysterious sound that sort of baffles you. But yeah, I don't know mechanically exactly how they do it, other than they're big birds and they've got this forceful push of air out their throat, and they're able to make a knock your socks off type of sound.
Pretty cool. It is a knock your socks off type of sound. What's interesting to me is that, birds, I'm sure there's birds that make different mating calls, but birds that are vocal year round. Turkeys, they can make sounds year round, but man, it's primarily a 1 month period where they gobble a lot, and then after that, you don't hear a lot of turkey gobbles after that mating
not till
season.
fall, when day length gets about like it is in the spring. When it gets that way in the fall, and that'll sort of trigger some gobbling behavior. The jakes and gobblers are fighting. They're pecking order, chasing each other. They'll gobble some then, to a less degree. You can hear them. I mean, I heard one a few days before Christmas last year. You just never know, but it's rare.
It's rare, yeah. But they have the ability to do it year round. During the breeding season. And the interesting thing about turkeys is a gobbler gobbles for what reason?
Well, he's trying to let that hen know where he's at, let other males know where he's at. They actually, in other gallinaceous birds, these pheasant, chicken, turkey-like birds, they have what's called lekking, L-E-K, lek. That's where males gather, and they're establishing a pecking order of dominance. And with turkeys, so you think of that like in the western states, you have sage grouse or sharp-tailed grouse. They dance around and do these crazy dances. Well, some people have described turkeys as having a dispersed lek. So it's like, they can gobble, and you can hear that a long way. To them, they know where each other is, even if they're out of sight, far apart from each other. So they're gobbling not just to attract hens, but also to set the boundaries with other males, and that who knows? We don't really understand all the complexities of it. It's just that it's a important form of communication for them. And so, as hunters, of course, that's what we really just crave, is hearing that gobbling. And they will stop gobbling sometimes in response to heavy hunting pressure. So it's interesting.
Next question is from Tyler. What are ways you can age a gobbler, and what age is considered mature?
Yeah, 2 years is mature. You really can't reliably age gobblers. There used to be kind of a rule of thumb about spur length, but it's not as hard and fast. All things being equal, longer spurs means an older bird, but it's not so precise that you can say, well, it's exactly this measurement that makes it a 2-year-old. This measurement makes it a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. It's not that exact. It's kind of like height, shoe size. It varies, so you could have 2 4-year-old birds and could have different spur lengths. It's just not something, you just know that if you get a long 1.5-inch spur, it's probably a 3 4-year-old bird.
All right. Next question is from Aiden. What are the best terrain features to look for to help locate roosted turkeys? Tell me a little bit about if you went out to try to locate an area for roosted turkeys to try to plan a hunt, like you're going out before the season, what would you be looking for?
Oh, I kind of like hillsides and bluff sides, hardwood, covered in hardwood.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to like to get up in there, in my experience, and then fly down, where they have the option to fly down into the lower fields or something. So.
As far as a roosting site, what's the best way to locate a roosting site? Like, will they roost they won't roost in the exact same tree, but they find a spot they're comfortable with, they'll continue to come back to certain areas and roost. What's the best way to locate one of those?
Boot leather.
Yeah.
Getting out there, observing them.
What are you looking for, though?
Well, you're looking for scratching. You're looking for, droppings, sign, hearing the birds, seeing the birds. Bow hunting, bow season's a good time because birds are in flocks, bigger flocks. So it's a good time to locate them, get accustomed to where they're roosting, and just kind of keep tabs on them until spring. They don't usually roost in the same tree night after night. It might be very close in an area, several nights in a row, and then they'll up and move to a different spot. But it's highly variable. Sometimes they're in hardwoods, sometimes they're in cedar trees. If you got pines on your place, then they do like those, but it's really site property specific, so hard to say. It's something we can't really predict.
A lot of times you can get them getting out there at dawn or dusk and listening for them, using your ears.
A couple days before the season, man, you can a lot of times find out exactly where they're at from over the ridge. You don't have to, they don't see you, you don't know they're there, you don't call, you just sit there and you listen and kind of find out where they're at early in the morning. That can give you an idea kind of where they're starting out, right? So next question from Braden. What's your favorite thing about turkey hunting? What do you think? What's your favorite thing about turkey? You probably spend a lot of time in the woods working during turkey season, but when you get a chance to turkey hunt, what's your favorite thing about it?
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing is hear them drum and gobble, both those things. Seeing them spread those fans, come in and start drumming around a decoy, it just gets you really excited. Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing.
That's the same with me. Getting to see them in action doing their thing is to me as rewarding as shooting them. So that's what gets me kind of fired up about it.
Once you pull the trigger, the hunt for the day is over, isn't it?
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. Enjoy the experience is what I would say, because you get out there and, like I say, hunting birds are. It's a lot of fun, but when you pull the trigger, okay, well, we're done for the day. So make sure that you enjoy the communication aspect. Watch them. You don't have to be, it's not like how fast can I get the gun up and get a shot, because sometimes when you get them in there around you for long periods of time, that can be a lot of fun as well.
And you can actually learn a lot from them, as far as for your next hunt, just sitting there and watching how they behave and the sounds they make.
What's your favorite thing about turkey hunting?
Obviously the behaviors that we're all after, that's great. But I guess to be different, I'll say and because it's true, I really enjoy the opportunity to get out with somebody else, a family member, a friend, new hunter. It's really rewarding to see them experience something that I've been very fortunate for many years to get to experience.
I tell you what, the look on somebody's face the very first time that a gobbler gobbles, and then when they start closing the distance, how much more intense and loud it is when they gobble really close to you. If you can get in there and camo up really good, gloves, face mask, and you have a new hunter there, and when that bird gets in close, if you're watching them and that bird gobbles, man, the hair on the back of their neck will want to stand up, their eyeballs will get real big. It's a pretty intense moment.
I think it's a really special way to connect, get away from our modern constructs we have. We go to work, go to school every day. We do our normal routine. In that moment, you're connecting with the past. Like it's really a interesting thing. For me, it's like a vibe that you just can't hardly replicate any other way.
It is special. Hey, we're going through as many questions as we get here. We're getting tons of questions coming in today. We will definitely not get to every single one. So if you have a question, the next week before turkey season, during the season, or any time of year, our info center is available Monday through Friday. You can reach out to them, 1-800-858-1549. reach out and ask them about locations on where to hunt or to find out more information about what they need to be legal for turkey hunting. They can definitely help you out. So make sure you reach out to our info center. Next question is from Tyler. Does harvesting jakes negatively impact the turkey population?
It depends. Most answers a biologist will give you is it depends. With our population situation now, we don't think it's detrimental. If you want to be extra conservative on your own property, nothing's stopping you from restricting take of jakes. Some people do that, but it's not necessarily going to, bolster your numbers greatly, and particularly in a year when there's quite a few of them. I mean, it's not a bad thing. We have a 2-bird limit that's quite conservative, so yeah, it's not going to hurt anything to take one of your birds as a jake, but it's a personal decision. A lot of guys graduate in their turkey hunting, career, so to speak, and they prefer not to take them.
I've taken a jake. I'll be the first to tell you. I've taken jakes before, and if you're seeing lots and lots, if you're having sometimes you just have those years that are kind of tough, and if you're seeing plenty of jakes, your property has plenty of birds, and hey, I've got kids got this next week, got to be at a wedding, and you're like, okay, I've got this bird in close, and this might be my last day in the woods. Don't hang your head and be ashamed because you took a jake. It's part of hunting, and if you decide to take one, as long as the landowner and you're fine with tagging that bird, then have you ever taken a jake?
I've never taken one, no.
You never taken one? Have you ever taken
for sure. For sure.
Jakes beware.
Yeah,
Watch
jakes
out.
beware. First several years, that's all I looked at.
Have you ever taken a jake?
My first bird was a jake, so I got a soft spot. I mean, that's what helped get me into it.
So I have no issues with, if you've got the birds and the landowner's fine with the jake, then don't feel pressure to not take a bird at all to avoid taking a jake. Next question, how is hunting pressured gobblers different, and what mistakes are most common? Pressured gobblers, late in the year, breeding's taking place, you've called to them a couple times, you may have even worked a bird in and scared the bird, and it takes off. How do you handle that bird differently than a bird that opening morning that had no pressure whatsoever?
It's hard. It's definitely hard, as the season goes on. Or public land is tough because everybody's out there and calling to them so much. If you have the ability to, you know where birds like to be because you've scouted, you're just familiar with a farm or a WMA, and it routinely has the birds, then try an ambush setup, try to wait them out. Sometimes you can get lucky. Certain days, they'll turn on in the afternoon, even later in the season when you'd think they'd be gobbled out or have been called to a bunch. It can flat out work, even on public land where they've almost assuredly been called to quite a bit. I've had luck. So you probably shouldn't go out there just calls a-blazing. But so it's a patience game, I guess I'd say. You got to wait them out and just try to get in amongst them without, calling as much as you maybe would have earlier.
You really don't want to overcall. And then what's the rule and regulations on calling prior to the season?
So you can't do any preseason calling. So you're not supposed to be out there before season calling. I can't exactly remember the date that starts right off the top of my head, but you can't do any preseason calling, so you can't start your calling until season.
And it really is in your best interest to not be, and even though it's illegal before the season, you really don't want to be educating those birds. If you're going to be hunting that piece of property, you really don't want to. You want that opening morning, everything to be brand new to those birds. The easiest way to trick them. You don't want any calling of any type right prior to the season. Next question from Ed. Will this bird flu that we've heard with our chicken populations, is that going to impact wild turkeys?
Well, we're still monitoring that to see. So far, it doesn't appear to be having a major issue. There's only been a few wild turkey cases that I'm aware of, and most of those were in association with a poultry operation that had it. So, you know, we just don't know. We're still kind of early in it, but it seems like wild turkeys are not as susceptible.
Okay.
Not like you know, waterfowl and raptors can be. So
Yeah,
we're hoping
okay.
that doesn't change. It's possible that nature of the disease can morph through time, but fingers crossed. Right now, doesn't seem to be that detrimental.
Yeah, very good. That's good to know, because man, we've seen that could be devastating.
It can.
Not only the wild birds, but you know, the chickens and things like
Yeah,
that.
it's
So
serious.
So I tell you what, hopefully there's new hunters out there. If you are an experienced hunter or have a piece of property, you want to take a new hunter out, you know, get someone involved in turkey hunting. It's a short window of time that we get to chase spring turkeys. It's not like archery for deer season, but get out there, pattern that shotgun in, get to the range, take a new hunter out there. It's a fantastic sport and a good way to introduce someone to the outdoors. And if you want to know more about turkey hunting and you're not an experienced turkey hunter, the good news is that our fall turkey hunting guide is now available online. So if you go to fw.ky.gov, there'll be a link right there, and you can download our spring turkey hunting guide. Familiarize yourself with that. The good news is I think anything that's new, and I don't think there's a whole lot that is new, we'll highlight in red if you're an experienced turkey hunter and you kind of know the rules and regulations. But read through that, kind of pick out a place that you might want to go do some scouting, and get out there and get to the range now. It's the time, right? Right now, it's kind of the time to be do that. We talk about patterning shotguns. Have you had a shotgun, one particular shotgun shooting the exact same ammo, and you shoot a turkey choke tube through it? That, you know, choke tube is the thing that goes into the gun, and it constricts how big of a pattern that you're shooting through your shotgun, which makes it more lethal, right? Mm-hmm. I've taken turkey choke tubes out of one shotgun and put it in a different shotgun, and they don't shoot the same, do they?
Yeah, it's really, you know, it's not a bullet. It's not got rifling.
Yeah.
It keeps a bullet spinning. There's a lot of chance that happens, you know, in that instantaneous moment. So it's real specific to the gun and all of its internal workings that sets the shot in motion. So
I say that because
practice
if you got a shotgun and you borrow a choke tube because you're thinking about getting into turkey hunting, or you borrow someone's shotgun and you kind of mix and match this all together and hit the woods, you might not be happy with the results. You really want a gun that'll throw a tight pattern with a whole lot of pellets in a smaller area, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're getting something that's putting pellets out on a big area like that, your combination, either your gun, your choke tube, or your ammunition, your shotgun shells you're using, may not work real well together. So buy a couple different boxes of ammo. It's always fun to shoot a shotgun anyway. Get out to the range and make sure that gun's doing what you want it to do before you get out there and pull the trigger.
Yep.
Next question is from James. He wants to know what the home range of a flock of turkeys is. That's one of the things you guys are banding turkeys and kind of trying to calculate some of this too, right?
Yeah, that's our second research project is in Western Kentucky, and they're banding, not just banding gobblers, but they're putting radio transmitters on some of the gobblers and a lot of hens. And there's many facets to that research, but certainly home range size is one of them. Mm-hmm. The thing about home ranges is it depends. It depends on the time of year. It depends whether you're a gobbler or a jake or a hen or a jenny. They have seasonal home ranges, and so they shift, you know. A flock, I mean, you can pretty well say that at least a square mile, 2-3 square miles is fair game for that local flock to move. But, you know, depending on the time of year, this time of year they're probably sort of settled in. You know, they've spent the fall and winter figuring things out, and they've probably got go-to places by now that the gobblers have figured out to strut in. The hens are coming to them, but you know, she's going to change her movements as soon as she's bred and goes off to start laying. So it's at least a square mile, I'd say.
How many acres
just keep that in mind
mile?
when you're hunting, that it's not just your property. It's like, you know, Dirk said every property is different, but your neighbors always influence.
How many acres are in a square mile, do you know?
640.
640. So 640 acres, and you're saying it could be 2 and 3 times that throughout the period of the year. Mm-hmm. And you think they settle into that?
It varies a lot. Yeah, we several years ago now we transmitted a jake, caught him in the fall, and then like just a few days before spring season, he made a movement of like 6 or 7 miles and was killed on opening morning.
Really?
So sometimes that happens, so that was a Jake, and Jakes kind of do that, but you just never quite know. But generally speaking, they're going to be within a square mile territory is a rough estimate.
Did having a colder and snowier winter this past year have any significant impact on the projected turkey population?
I don't think so. Our winters are not as severe as they are in the far north, and turkeys are just remarkably tough. So it would take several weeks of not having food availability to make it hard. Sometimes long-term flood events like they have in the deep south along the Mississippi River, those conditions where turkeys cannot access the ground and it's too far to fly to the nearest dry land, in some cases that's been just as detrimental as the cold weather. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of detrimental effects.
The eastern turkey range, I mean, how far north does that go?
Oh, they go way up into Ontario, and
so
certainly into Maine,
they
Minnesota.
Can survive cold weather,
oh
right?
yeah, we don't. Yeah, our winters are not the harshest that turkeys face.
Yeah. All right. Next question is: can I hunt with a 410 Judge handgun? There's a legal question. A 410 Judge handgun.
This is a question we get periodically. Most game wardens have probably got this question a couple times in their career. It's kind of a unique one, but the answer to that is no. You cannot, and the reason being is our laws, they require a shotgun, to be considered a shotgun, it must be fired from the shoulder.
Okay.
And so with a 410 Judge, obviously you wouldn't be firing that from the shoulder. But a lot of people inquire about them because, they're looking at reaping and, stuff like that, so.
Reaping is something we didn't really talk about today, and reaping is another way that you can call turkeys in by using a decoy where you're literally carrying the decoy and hiding behind it. So it can be an effective method, but we always want to tell people that reaping on public lands can be dangerous and deadly. So be very, very cautious if you decide to do reaping.
Definitely.
So this is our last question. What's your favorite way to fix wild turkey for the table? Man, this question comes up quite often, and let's get everybody's favorite way to eat turkey.
Yeah, mine's going to be the old-fashioned smoker. I like everything smoked, so I like to take my breasts and smoke them. And I've got a little electric smoker that I use, and I love it.
How long does it take to smoke a wild turkey breast?
Wild turkey breast is pretty quick. Yeah, you're talking like an hour and a half. It doesn't take very long at all.
Okay.
Yeah, in my experience.
All right. What's your favorite one?
I've actually got into making stews out of the thighs and leg quarters.
Okay.
And it turns out I like that a lot better than most of it.
All right. There you go. How about you?
Fried turkey nuggets, man.
Fried turkey nuggets, yep. I'll tell you what, you're a kid at heart. My kids love the fried turkey nuggets with the Chick-fil-A. They like that Chick-fil-A sauce. They like turkey chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A. It turns out they like fried turkey nuggets with Chick-fil-A sauce on them just as well. Man, there's a million things. There's so many different things you can do with wild game and with turkey. If you can use chicken, you can probably use turkey. Just don't overcook it. It's the hardest thing with wild game is don't overcook it. When you overcook it, you can mess it up pretty quick. But yeah, my wife makes dumplings, and we've always done it with chicken. And when I was sitting there with turkey breast one time, I was like, well, we can put this in the crock pot and give this a try. And turned out it's just a whole lot more meat in your chicken dumplings, but we use wild turkey dumplings, and it's very good. It's a great way to warm up someday, and it keeps well. It keeps well in the refrigerator. You can keep it for a few days, so that's probably one of my favorite ways to have it.
Yep, it is good.
Well, turkey season's upon us. A reminder of our turkey season dates. It's coming up. If you don't have your turkey tags or you plan on turkey hunting, now's the time to be out scouting. Now's the time to get out and sight in that gun. The youth season is going to be on April the 5th and 6th. It's a 2-day season. Remember, you get 2 tags unless on your general tag, but if you're buying that tag between 12 and 15, 1 tag. And then in the general season, turkey hunters will get 2 tags, 1 turkey per day, and that will run from April the 12th to May the 4th. Is that what you said?
Correct, yep.
All right, so it is here. Hey, if you want a place to sight in your gun, you don't have a place to shoot your shotgun, then go on our website and check out all of the ranges that are located around the state. Have you guys ever participated and used any of our turkey ranges?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a great place to go and shoot your shotgun and make sure that you're getting a good pattern. So there are a bunch of those are available. Don't wait till the last day. Get out there now and get that shotgun sighted in and ready to go. Nothing. You said it earlier. Nothing beats a little bit of shoe leather. Get out there and do some scouting, and that is the best way to find out, pattern those birds and find out what they're using. So good luck to you. Hope everyone has a very safe turkey season and a very productive turkey season. Take a new hunter if you get a chance. And remember, hunting and fishing on private property is a privilege. Always ask the landowner and ask permission, and always make sure that you're abiding by all the rules and regulations.